So, as I was discussing about, this is primarily about unit testing. Let us try it out. The JUnit part today, and how and what is the really need. What is the real need for unit testing, right? And developer always looks at a code, at method level, or and he understands that what parameters it has to we have to send and what is the output of each method. At the and whereas the tester, uh, test engineer, he doesn't really care about what methods we write, what parameters each method takes, and what is the return type. What he knows is that how the application performs, or what is the use case document, or the what is the requirement document says about the functionality. And when the developer says I am done, then he tester will always refer with the requirements, and he will try to test the functionality. So there is a fundamental difference. Developer is focused on the code, how it works or not, whereas tester is focused on the overall functionality. Even if you say that there is a small team, we work on only one module of the project, still the focus is on the functionality only by the tester, but the developer need to take care of whether each method can break or it's working or not. If developer is not focusing, tester will find so many issues. Testers will find so many issues, and there will be always concerns about the quality that is delivered to the QA. Since that many times QA can shout saying that at least you do some bare minimum testing, something like that. So to avoid that kind of situations, and also to provide uh, mostly bug-free code, what we tend to do is we spend time in testing our code ourselves, and automating that particular testing. Automating the testing means, suppose if I need to test calculator add method, okay, so can this method work fine for normal conditions? Maybe that extreme lower conditions I give minus value maximum possible, and maybe the higher values, that is the maximum limit for an integer, and see how it really works with. Maybe should it throw proper messages, or like maybe should it throw exception, how you are really expecting for. So those conditions we need to check. And also, like in a complex scenarios where you are sending objects, where what will happen if a particular object is null, if a particular object that is sent as a parameter is null, right? And is your program performing in a graceful manner, meaning whether when the input is invalid, or maybe one or more of input arguments are invalid, is your program able to identify that, instead of throwing a, say something like exceptions, a null pointer exception, or argument related exceptions? So are you able to really figure it out, and show it in a better manner, so that your program does not exit abruptly, right? So to do that kind of thing, what we do is, there are multiple frameworks available in Java, and one of the basic things that everyone should be aware is something called JUnit. Okay, JUnit is a library from Apache Foundation. JUnit is a library from Apache Foundation, and it's one of the very popular. You can pretty much download. You type Google, and you see junit.org. Oops, this is a different foundation. I was wrong. Okay, JUnit has its own website now. Okay, so you can download. There are various versions available. You can always download latest one, latest JUnit jar. But the benefit with Eclipse is that I can always do, say, suppose what I can do is I can write. I can pretty much maybe I'll what we will do is unit testing, right? So you can always write, right click instead of a class. See here, I have an option called JUnit test case. Click on it. Okay, so there are two different things. One is JUnit 3 test, JUnit 4. JUnit 3 version is, I mean, there is a revolutionary change between JUnit 3 and JUnit 4. So I prefer JUnit 4 and see, let us see how it goes. Ram.test dot. Where is, okay, calculator, right? So, try to name your, sorry, I did a mistake. This should go to the package. So try to name your classes with a suffix test. This helps us, okay? So that you identify, and also generally the code package itself, what will happen is that we tend to have a different folder. SRC is there, right? So what we tend to do is we tend to create another source folder called test. Okay, I need to add new folder test. Test already exists. Where? Where is it? Fine, I think I'll do within this itself. But we should or let me give it a try once more. There's a new folder. Let me try. Okay, ideally it should be test, but this folder exists. I'll give it a list and oops, oops, it's gone. It's gone. My Eclipse is closed. Okay, so what we do is Eclipse. I mean, with JUnit is that we always write methods, plain methods, and when we try to test the logic, there are some additional annotations that we need to do, and we have been, I think, looking at some of the annotations like @deprecated, right? So similarly, you have an annotation called @test. So if I put that annotation, then my code becomes a test method. So it's coming up. I did some mistake. So that is the reason it went. So usually we separate from the source code with test code. Other, so what I need to do is project those add folder as well. And the test class is the same. Just excuse me for the test one folder. You can give it any name, but general notation is that it will go to test and click. I can even say test. I calculator. What are methods that I need test? Change and add. Let us take these three methods. Okay, so it will create test methods. Create final method stubs. Let us see without selecting anything what will happen. And see here, interesting thing is JUnit 4 is not in the build path. Do you want to add it? This is going to get a jar file. I mean, it will be having the jar file, so it will add it to the class path. What you're doing is that selecting which test the actual class that I want to test is calculator. Let me close other office that I have. Oops, this terrible is like. Oops. Okay. And here goes, here goes my unit test code. So one change that it has done is, I need to seriously look why my computer is slow. The properties in the libraries, see here, it has added JUnit jar file. This is there in the Eclipse, so it just added the particular jar into the class path. That is the reason when I use a class called see here import org.junit.asset.star or org JUnit test. Either of them they are there and it is working just because of the particular jar. Otherwise I'll show you in one sample one of my other application that I'm working with for some other thing. Where is it? I'll show with this project. Java build path. SRC project Java build path. You see here I have some jars here, and also I have many jars here. Here there is a complete path of it. So usually jars, we learned about jars, and when we bundle our code into jar and we release it for outsiders to use it. Or other way is, if there is a jar that we need to use, and if that is what we do is we download that particular package from internet, or we get it from within our company. If it is actually created by another team in the company, we'll follow. We get the jar file and add it to the class path, so that you can use that particular module, whatever jar you are having it. So that's how we are getting that. Now here if I look at this actually it is not mandatory that JUnit this code has to generate code like this. This pretty much you can do on your own, but let us look at this particular any method. Generally, you have test methods always have @ annotation. Okay, let us see how it looks like. Run as JUnit test. Run as JUnit test. And in my case, I do some Android programming. That is the reason I see two options, but you will not see two options. You will directly run as test. It will say that it will actually run and you see this output. And see here, my test is failing. My test, all the three tests are failing. The reason being, I did not implement any of these methods and there is a fail statement. See the fail where it is coming from. We have import org jinit asset.star. What will this asset.star will do? Any idea? I mean, when I am doing import and when I say dot star, what will happen?
It imports all the
It
files.
imports all the methods in the functions in the all the files in the asset dot.
Right. It will actually like import all the classes in that particular given package. Generally that's how it works. But in this case, if I look at this, this is a static class and static method, so it actually like imports all the, I mean, static methods I can directly call. This is one feature that is added recently to Java. But otherwise, with if you are only working with Java 1.4, 1.5, Java 5, it's actually like the import statement is basically like when I do a dot star, then that actually means that okay, I don't really care. I don't want to import every file in this package manually. I want to import all of them. It is something like what I do is import java.util.star. When I do this, I get sorry, I get that array list or I get list. Did we discuss collections so far? We did, right? Yes, we did discuss. Yeah, we did discuss, a list, map, and set, that kind of classes. All of them will come if I do. And the one that right now we have is a static import, and it actually means that the methods. This is a new feature such as, but for you, I think you can take it for granted. This is a Java feature. Old or new doesn't really matter for us. Now, what happens with this import static is that you can call the methods, static methods of this asset class directly, as if it is a local method. Okay, so that's how it works. And the fail statement is that it explicitly fails the particular test case. Okay, see here the reason: assertion error failure in the left side JUnit window. Java.lang.assertion error not yet implemented. Okay, and that's because we did not implement every test method. You can click here and it takes you there. Okay, so now let's write some logic. What we need to do was, okay, first let me open what we did in the calculator. Yeah, we need to get calculator, and there was change and add. Okay, let us look at this particular method, change and add with calculator object. Okay, another calculator object. Now let me declare a equal to new calculator. Okay, and I do is okay. Let me see what really happens now. Okay, I'll comment other two methods. I'll just comment the annotation part so it will not run. See here, test case has failed. Test case has failed. There is a null pointer exception, and you could even see the console. What happened to console? Console should have some data. Oops. It doesn't show anything here. Okay. So basically, like the reason is that I did not check for null here in this thing. So that is the reason I'm getting this error. So what's happening is if calc 2 equal to null, generally we need to have our own exceptions. Do I have any? Okay. Maybe I'll just we will create one custom exception. We did discuss about exceptions, right? Class called invalid argument exception. We actually discussed so many things, so it's very important for us to keep track of them. I'm just writing bare minimum exception. And the reason is, the error is because how can I create a runtime exception? Custom runtime exception? I want to create a custom runtime exception. How?
It's the same thing. Like this one.
Same way, but exactly like will there be any difference? Which class I need to extend?
Like arithmetic.
Sorry, no, yeah, like arithmetic, but which class I need to extend? Here I am extending invalid argument exception.
Oh,
I'm
input
extending.
output.
Sorry?
Input output exception.
No. If I need to create a runtime exception, I need to extend runtime exception. Runtime exception is a class.
Oh,
Okay, when I create, we know the difference between runtime exception, checked and unchecked exceptions, right? Runtime exceptions are not detected by the compiler. Compiler it doesn't throw any warning for us or any error at the compile time for runtime exceptions. Only for the checked exceptions we get compile time error. Right? Clear? Is that clear? We should be very clear about it, because I explained that how we can be screened with uh, just exceptions framework itself. It is possible, it is possible to, I think what I'm actually thinking is that maybe we will meet on every Sunday and try to review what we learned so far. It should be like, based on that I can realign or I can redo some of the classes, The focus should be that, I should not go so fast, or if I need to prepare even better, I need to do that. And also for you, it will work like a retro meeting. Let's see how it works this Sunday. We'll have a class this Sunday. So because we learn so many things, it is very common that we tend to forget some of them. Right. So I created an exception called invalid argument exception. So when I give, there should be something called expected. What I can do is do a try catch, and I say as long as it is, as long as my application is throwing invalid argument exception, it is fine for me. And it complains that this code does not throw let's put our own message. Calculator parameter object is null, and when this happens, you need to throw, because this is a checked exception. This extends exception. So now my error is gone. And the interesting thing, just see this particular line. I'm writing very small code, but interesting code. See what I did. I'm calling calculate change add, add and change and add. I think the method names or calculator can be implemented in a better way. I'm just reusing the one that we did in the beginning. So see here, what I'm saying is, first I'm calling calc change and add, okay, and then I'm saying next statement is fail. Any guesses why I'm doing this? Very simple example that I'm taking. Usually JUnit test cases are complex, and it is actually a lot of pain for developer, because writing writing code of writing a method is maybe more easy than writing different test cases. Trying to generate or think about various scenarios where it can fail, what type of I read one methods for the logic, but I may need to write 10 methods in the test case. So it's always writing test cases in a pakka 100% foolproof is always pain. It takes time, and in the beginning it might be a little bit of pain. So why I'm actually failing my test case is I'm expecting that I'm sending null as a parameter here, right? I'm sending null parameter, and what I'm expecting is that there should be an invalid argument exception. Okay, so when I call this method, immediately there should be an invalid argument exception. If the no exception is thrown, that means it is a problem. This is not as per my logic, right? You're getting my point? Exception is expected now in this case because I'm sending invalid argument. So if my method is not, someone changed the method and they actually added if else some logic there, and maybe that they broke my logic expectation. Now they will be able to figure it out. We will see how. So first thing is it clear that why I'm putting a fail statement here? No? Yeah, fine. So if you don't understand, please alert me. So fail statement, because there should be an exception thrown, so the large actually control should go to the catch statement. If it is not going to the catch statement, that means if there is no exception, in this line, then only next line will get executed. And in the next line, if there is no exception, that means that is invalid statement for me. That means that my method is doing something wrong. So I'm actually writing a fail statement. Let us see how it works. I commented other two methods. Let us see how it really works. Right click, run as JUnit test case. See here, it is green now. It is passed. And on the top, if you see on the top, it actually gives you total number of methods, 1 out of 1. How many errors? 0 errors. How many failures? 0 failures. Error is different, failure is different. Failure means test case has failed. And error means that you got some exception, unhandled exception while executing your test method. So, but overall errors and failures, they mean that they are basically failures. And whatever is that from the total number of test cases is what the actual let us see. And maybe in some method I'll just throw new arithmetic exception. I'll just like that I'll throw some arithmetic exception. Okay. And let me see, I just commented I mean uncommented the methods. Run. See here. Is this clear now? See, there are total number of how many test cases that are run? 3, and one is a failure, one is an error. Is this clear? So the failure part is actually coming from this, where there is an explicit fail statement. Here there is an explicit fail statement, so test case has failed. Whereas in other case, somehow there is a problem with the executing the logic, and there was some exception. Here for dummy, this is pretty much a dummy thing. In real-time scenarios, you will never do just a plain throw new arithmetic exception or something like that. But your application code, something like this. If it is throwing exception, I'll let me see if we can actually I can actually fail this test case. Oops. I can actually fail this test case. Throw new. I'll just throw new runtime. Runtime exception. Should I need to handle this particular exception? I'm throwing a runtime exception now. Should I need to use a throw statement now? And just to satisfy the compiler, I just discard that the if true statement. Without this statement, what is happening? Any guesses what will happen? Why there is an error? And I'll show the error so that you can comment. Unreachable code. Do you understand by what it really means by this? It shows a compilation error called unreachable code. Volunteers?
Yeah, means it's not going that far. It's already an exception.
Yes.
Before
I mean, first line itself is throw exception, and there is no way it can go to the next line. So compiler checks, and it throws, there is no meaning for writing this kind of code. This code is unreachable. You will get this error in many scenarios when you do programming mistake. So just to get rid of it, what I'm doing is, I'm actually faking. I'm just there is a fake if statement, and means when I do this, why that error is gone is because maybe that this if condition may go as false. Usually we will have a condition here, right? And if that condition is false, if will not be executed and it will go to the next line, that is this line. With that notion, compiler is maybe that compiler can be more efficient and figure out if that if condition validates to true all the cases. Maybe they should do. They can do something of that sort, but still dead code. They figured it out. Okay, this I think not the Java, but Eclipse is doing this. It says dead code. It is not a compilation error, but it figured out that this particular thing will never run. That is a dead code. But Let us see what it really looks like. Oops, what happened? No, not here. Rather, I need to run here. See, there is an error count is increased. The passive test has become an error test case. Right? The reason being, I introduced another throw statement. I did not handle that exception. You know, the errors are primarily because of the exceptions, unexpected exceptions. Errors are because of unexpected exceptions. And failures are because failures are better always, because that actually means that there is a problem with my application logic. We should never have exceptions when you write test cases. Sorry, we should never have error report with the values. That means that your test case is, there is a problem with your test case. There is always, there is always the case. There is a problem with your test case. Okay. So is this clear what I'm trying to explain you? Just to recap, what I am trying to do is I'm trying to introduce the unit testing mechanism, and in Java by introducing JUnit framework, and with Eclipse the benefit is that the benefit with Eclipse is that it does add the jar to the class path on its own when you are trying to add it for the first time. When you try to add your first test case, it is trying to add JUnit.jar to the class path, and we prefer JUnit 4 because it supports annotations. Without annotation also there is we can write test cases. I will not discuss that now, but the how it looks like is that you will not have this annotation. Rather, all your methods will start with a prefix called test. At the rate test. Sorry, at the rate test. No. Just the test. Look at these methods. Anyway, I still have the prefix test. Test divide, test change, and add calculator. Then test divide with no catch. Right. So if all the methods with the starting with the test will be assumed that they are the testing methods and they will be executed. That is with the JUnit 3. With JUnit 4, if I comment this annotation, it will not execute this method at all. It will not consider this method. The test method name doesn't really matter. If I say test, if I put this at the rate annotation test, and this particular thing is not really required. Without that also it will work. But to have an internal clarity on that, this particular method is a test method. I mean, just for our own understanding, we can still live with, keep the test prefix. But JUnit has nothing to do with it. If I do this, if I run this code with JUnit 3, it will run these 3 of the methods, okay? Because they have test prefix. With JUnit 4, you don't need to have it. And there are some other things like setup, tear down, means that, when I am running some test cases, maybe that I need to set up something in the beginning. Maybe I need to open a connection, database connection, or I need to open a network connection, or I need to initialize some of the master data, something like that. So those things can be done. There is an annotation called, see here, before and before class. So I can pretty much do something like, public void this, setup. So whatever I try to run here, sorry. SY setup method. And then also similarly, if you want to do some cleanup after your test case, you have an annotation called after. I'm not writing any logic. Okay. Now let us see how it looks like. And where is my console? Let me get my console as well. See here. First, this @setup will be called first before executing your test cases. And do I have my test methods commented? I will uncomment these methods. See here, for every test method the setup and cleanup will be called. So if I want to do something in common, okay, some initialization and some cleanup, maybe so that your garbage collector will clean that objects from the memory. So did I speak about garbage collection? I think no. So I'll discuss about that as well. So this particular things, the setup, cleanup. I'm going by my SOP system.println, but @before, @after. These annotations help us, to do some, the pre and post work for the test methods. And there is one more called, before class, okay, and public void setup before okay. Then also let me write after class. I'm just writing my method names. Method names can be anything actually. Okay. I'm just going by. Oh. There is a problem. Method bedrock. Oh, okay. See here, setup before any method, and this gets called after all methods. These particular things, before and before class and after class methods, they get called, the method that are annotated with this, they get called before, only once. Whereas before and after they get called, for every method, for every test method. If you have 100 test methods, they get called 100 times. And actually, this is how it really works. Like maybe that, let us not pay too much attention to this particular, before, after, for our simple unit testing purposes, but this is how we need to do it. And let me look at, this particular method. Let me do some formatting. And so within that,
I have a question.
yeah, please.
Yes. This change of add method, we check for the argument for this function, right?
Yeah.
In JUnit testing, we check for the logic. Like is this checking for the argument?
Now, actually, I just wrote one negative condition you know, I'll name this particular thing as, you know, okay, meant. What I'll try to do is, you need to write n number of test methods to test the logic. That is only on error condition. Okay?
Okay.
And maybe that, you know, I'll call this as a normal. One normal method will be that I'll create calc2 equal to new calculator. And is this method returning anything? Nothing. Okay. Now, what I'm expecting is that I don't want to see any exception. One way is I can get rid of this try catch. But you can just add a throws block. But I'm not expecting really any exception. Okay. So let me, I mean, for any method, any of your business logic methods, we need to have multiple, generally more than one, okay, more than one unit test methods. Oops, what happened? What happened to my method? Oh, okay. I think I selected that method and executed that only. It is possible, you know, underscore normal. See, only the one method is called. The reason was that I somehow selected this method. How do I run everything? Run as JUnit. Yeah. So now I'm running, you know, all the 4 test methods, and see the output. The add logic that we wrote, add result on calc2 after change is, you know, there is a, this method is printed from the calculator class. This is system.out.println. And there is no exception in this method. So I have one is a normal, one is invalid argument test case, other one is a normal test case. We tend to make, you know, test method with the same test method name, and then to address different situations, like in the invalid argument I made, you know, underscore invalid argument, and for normal flow I'm making underscore normal. And at times, you know, based on our logic and complexity, we will have, you know, more than 1 or 2 methods. Maybe that, you know, there may be one more type of exception possible. Okay, maybe that one, maybe divide by 0 kind of exception is possible, or some other type of exception is possible. So in one particular scenario, so for each scenario we will write one unit test case. For each scenario we will write one unit test case. That could be 2, I mean, that means that it could be 2 test methods, or 10 test methods, or maybe even 20 test methods. And if we can really focus on getting our code right using JUnit or any other unit test framework, believe me, when the code goes to the tester, it will have very less issues. Or maybe that if he figures out some bug, some issue with your code, that essentially could mean that there is some requirements gap. You know, maybe that our understanding about the requirements may be wrong, or maybe the tester was referring to old spec, but you implemented something that was discussed recently, and, you know, something that was finalized. It was not documented, but tester was not aware of it. So something like that. So there will be tester will focus and breaking your code, and he can actually do more justification because the individual units are working fine. Only thing is that how that, you know, actual functional flow of your application or project is working. So if there are any issues with that, he will figure it out. If not, what will happen? He will post a bug saying that, you know, I'm not able to call the, I'm not able to add anything. I'm not able to do anything. He will raise a high priority bug and he'll stop. He'll just sit idle until you fix the invalid argument stuff. Okay, and that actually is a time taking, painstaking, tester bandwidth will not be used that effectively, and in the reviews and all it will say that developer did not do any unit testing, he did not write any proper unit, he did not do test even the bare minimum things kind of thing. That shows the developer in the bad light. Okay, so but the focus should be that not on the blame game, but generally it is so. I mean, testers and developers, they feel that they are at a war, and always there is a war. There is testers say that something is not working, developers say this is a wrong test case or something like that. But or maybe sometimes they say that why did not you figure it out earlier, something like that. So at many companies there is always some kind of conflict, but not always. But to some extent, that kind of conflict is as long as it is healthy, it is good, because at the end the product gets developed in a bug-free manner. So what I'm trying to say is that you will have n number of test methods. Complete unit level testing. I mean, if this method, there are n number of scenarios possible, we need to write all the test cases. Okay, so that's just write out. You write your own calculator method. I somehow did not like the calculator method that I wrote myself. So you write a proper calculator test method and calculator classes and unit test case as well. And please send the work sample to me. I want to see that you are able to do the unit test case. And also like different scenarios. You should think like real developer, how there could be various scenarios, and you write various testing scenarios, unit test cases. Okay, I want your unit test cases. I mean, and do this code yourself and send me the unit test cases. Or one way you can do is you create in the same project. In the same project, you can create a different package. COM demo I gave, right? Maybe COM demo your name, and then you put up your classes. Okay. And so that I'll just check out tomorrow morning. It will be very easy for me. Instead of you sending the code in an email, just check it that into this particular code repository itself, and very easy for me to handle. Okay, here I'm can is that a bold statement or is it okay? Can I expect that?
When you say test cases, do you mean test methods like you did?
Yeah. What we need to do is you write a calculator class. You might have written already. Now, in the test package, you write. Maybe the calculator package will be different, right? In the test also, your package will be, suppose if I do my package in the development class will be com.demo.hurry, and in the test also it will be com.demo.hurry, and the class name will be calculator test. Okay. So and in the calculator test you write. I mean, my calculator logic is really stupid. I was actually explaining how we write classes and all that. So that time this did not really like go well. This class is really good. But you do another class, proper class, it need not be really calculator as well. You do something with the strings. You do some other scenario. Just discover some other scenario. As long as you write 2-3 methods in a class, having some logic, and you write unit test cases for it, it is fine for me. Is this clear? Okay. If you find it too difficult to use the SVN and all that, you can even mail me. But as we learn, we should apply the technologies we are learning. So SVN and JUnit, I want to say this way. If you have any difficulty, we can even rediscuss. We can discuss about the SVN part again. Okay. So try it out. Try it out. I mean, it's actually whatever I discussed is a simple, very bare minimum thing. So it's very bare.
In the logic.
Okay.
Like in the logic, right? In the logic method, like divide by 0. You have to pass the arguments in the JUnit class.
Sorry, where you give arguments, huh?
Yeah.
This is
While testing.
you actually assume the arguments, okay? Now in this case, okay, this particular method, it was a, uh, okay, I think we can actually pretty much, try this method. Okay, what I can do is calc dot divide okay, divide, and here I can give you maybe let me give 10. Yeah, I think now it's better. We'll cover one more particular test scenario. I'm just calling int result. Okay, I'm giving the parameters here. Okay, and here I can name this as a test divide underscore normal. Okay, now what I can do is asset expects, what I would expect is that 5. Okay, and what is the actual value is result. Not this, there's this array is not required. Okay, 1 second. So this assets I did not discuss, but this is something that also we need to look at. You look at, I mean, the how for this particular one I'll explain. When I am looking at asset equals means, this is used to compare the values. Okay, so this takes two parameters. There are multiple loading methods here. One long, int, or there are multiple things. You can give any parameter. First is expected value, meaning what is my parameters to divide method? 10 comma 2, right? So 10 by 2 is 5. So I am expecting that as per my business logic, the written value should be 5. So I am hard coding that here. And what is the actual result? I am storing the result into a variable called result. Okay, this is one thing, one test case. Another test case you can write is that the divide by 0. And here what I will have is, let us see how it. I need to do some try catch statements or something like that. So, but did I answer your question, Jimmy? See here, I am getting it. Right. So actually, what I need to do is I need to catch. And in this case, I should be expecting error, so exception. So this line should not be executed. Control should not come to this line itself. This itself should fail and throw an exception. Now divide exception. Still okay. I did not save the class. I did not save. That is the reason it still shows that as an error. See here, there is only one test method that is failing. Okay, but rest of them, there are 5 unit test cases now, and only one is an error, and that is because we wrote that logic like that. So fine. So please go back and do it. I'm closing now. Okay. Let us discuss if you have any issues tomorrow. Bye all.